Welcome back to Papa B's Old Time Repair and Restoration. I'm Mike, and happy 2025. Today we're going to get back on the DI project, and we're going to see if we can get this crankshaft out of the crankcase. So stay tuned and let's see what we get into. Let's start out by bringing you over to the crankcase and showing you what we're getting ready to remove. This is the crankshaft inside of the crankcase, and I've already taken the opportunity that I have wrapped Gorilla Tape around both of the rod bearing journals down in there to try to protect them while we remove it. Now, taking a crankshaft out of one of these D's is not rocket science, but it does pose some challenges. The older D's, older than this one, what I would call the old side steer D's, you basically just removed the main bearing housings from both sides, and while supporting the crankshaft you just snake it out the side. This one is a little more challenging due to that part right there. These later model D's have a counterweight for balance on these crankshafts, and it makes removing this shaft just a little tougher. We'll get into how this comes out as soon as we get started. So let's move over to the pulley side and let's start taking that main bearing housing off. Okay, the first thing we need to do is remove the safety wire that's locking the bolts into the side of the crankcase. We'll get those pulled out. Plenty of old grease right here on this housing. It's just pretty nasty. Okay, now that we've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen. Said it was. Let's try this. I think the last thing I would want to do would be to pull the front of this crankcase off of the stand. But I'm going to loosen the main caps on here and make just a little bit extra clearance on the crankshaft for that. Next, we're going to take the 6 bolts out that's holding the main bearing housing. Now you may be asking, well, what about the reduction gear? And in all honesty, I tried to remove this reduction gear the other day, thinking that it was on a tapered spline shaft. Well, it is not. And I finally, after all else failed, I went back to the IT manual, and the IT manual says to remove this gear with the transmission shaft and bring it all out this side. I even had a puller on this. What attachment I could get with the puller, never did move it, but it said to bring the shaft out and to press the gear off of the shaft after it's been removed. Now, so that brings up the next point. How is this main bearing housing going to come out? If you'll remember, I showed you the 34D outside, and over on the pile I showed the crankshaft. That crankshaft is exactly like this one, and it comes out the very same way. And there is enough room, if you get the crankshaft slid to one side, that you can bring this housing out far enough that you can snake it past the side and get it out. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get at it. That old grease gets all over you. All over your tools and everything else. We're going to have it here shortly. As previously mentioned, these bolt holes, or these bolt heads rather, excuse me, are drilled for safety wire. They are different than what is on the other side of the crankcase, as you'll soon see. It would be more handy to have this reduction gear out of the way while doing this, but we're going to make it just fine. I am getting ready to tear this transmission down, remove the axle housings, and gut this case so we can start cleaning up and coming back together with this tractor. But that's probably going to be another video, so I think we'll make it just fine here. As I move around here to the front of the crankcase and look at that inside of the main bearing housing, I realize I forgot to loosen the inside main cap bolts. So off camera I went ahead and loosened not only those two inside bolts, but the two over here, and then the two on the outside of the flywheel side main bearing housing. So let's get this main housing broke loose from the crankcase. Okay, I've got a gap over here. Let me see. Here's my pry bar. Let's see if we can nudge this out just a little bit right here. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. All right. So we've actually dropped out of the housing. So a couple things I would like to do right now then is I'd like to go ahead and get my engine hoist over here. I want to get a hold of this throw here with the strap and get it picked up, and then that'll support that. We'll be ready to move to the other side. Okay, we've got the crankshaft supported by the engine hoist. I've got the strap wrapped around the left-hand throw. Again, I do have the throws protected with tape, so that should be okay. So now we'll be ready to remove the right hand, or the left hand, excuse me, the left hand main bearing bolts. Get that slid off, and then we should be ready to start sliding the crankshaft out. Okay. Get these popped off and repeat the procedure that we used on the right hand main bearing housing. Tapping it till it gets free We'll wipe off these splines before we tried to slide the housing out. And as I said before, we do have the main caps loosened up. So once we get this housing to move, there's no reason why we can't go ahead and slide it off the end of the crankshaft and move it out of the way. Some mud in behind this one, dirt, grease, whatever. There we go. It's just pretty close quarters for that one. All right. I'm keeping these bolts separated because as soon as I get them cleaned up, I'll bag them with their location. That's how I've been trying to keep track of where these bolts go. It's just easier for me when it comes time to reassemble. All right, that's all of those. We'll go around and loosen this housing right here. Okay. Take the rag, wipe off these splines over here before we start. Okay. Let's see if we can get it loosened up. There, we're starting. Okay. We'll get the pry bar out, start working our way around. There we go. Kind of centered up right there. Now all of the oil lines are out of the tractor, so we... Oh, okay. The hoist is loosened up. Pick that up a little bit. Oh yeah, there we go. Uh-oh. There we have it. There's the first. I'm taking some brake parts cleaner and a rag, and I'm going to just kind of wipe this down here. Feel just a tiny bit of ridge on that, but we're not going to know for sure until we get the micrometer on there. But I'll bring you in and give you a little bit of a look there. Really doesn't look too bad. But like I said, we'll have to see how much it's worn, how much it's out around before we go further. You can see the crank drive gear. If I do use this shaft, we'll have to swap gears off of the other crankshaft that I've got to make it work. All right, let's keep it going. Okay, so as you saw in the last scene, we kind of looked at this shaft. I do have it covered with the Gorilla Tape, so we're protected there. Got the other throws, like I said, protected with the Gorilla Tape. So now it's time to move this shaft over this way. We'll slip that other main bearing housing off, and then we'll snake it out of the crankcase. There we are. There we are. I'm going to let that down. Okay, we're getting close over here on this main bearing housing. As you can see right here, I'm actually letting this throw slip down out of the crankcase, and so I want to be really careful. I don't want to drop the main bearing housing. I want to keep one hand on it. Okay. Very, very close. Let me see here. I want to raise. Okay, I'm going to raise that back up on that divider that separates the gear train from the main part of the crankcase. Almost there. Okay. Yeah, I think so. All right. Oh, we are so very, there we did. Right there. Okay. Yeah, I'm totally not supported. I don't see any damage to the main bearing house, or the main bearings, so I think we came out all right there. All right. So all we've got left is to get it out of the hole. The book says that you need to bring this into the crankcase through this opening here, slide down through that hole, and turn the crankshaft as it goes. So I'm going to put another strap on this chain hoist here and come around and support. Maybe put a little tension, and we'll see what Okay. All right. Now I'm going to let off on this one. Ouch. Let's see here. I think you can see why I went ahead and taped all of these journals. I haven't taped the right side one yet, but we'll do our best to be careful. All right. So now I'm going to try something. Just see. Now it's not going to come out that way. So let me see here if I can close to the direction that raise that up just a hair more. Let me get off of this one. Okay. All right, so what I need to do, let me get this strap off of here. I need to let this, I need to get rid of this strap first. I believe I'm in the right position with this outside hoist. If I let the crankshaft on down and clear this end up here, then we lay it and we just roll it around and it comes out. And I'm telling you, it's close when it comes out, but let's see here. There. Okay. There's that. Let me get this pipe out of here. Now I am going to, yes, let this right there. That's exactly what we needed right there. Now I'm going to raise this up. And get, here's what's the sad part about it, is I'm picking up on the high point of this crankshaft on this rod throw, and I basically need to rotate it against the weight is what I need to do. As I said before in the video, if this was an older D, it would have been out on the floor a long time ago. But it's that's going to be how will we do that? Raise that up a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So now the counterweight just started out of the hole over here. So now I believe we rotate it around and drop it. And we are up. Oh, I am up against that bearing. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, no. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's not what I wanted to do, but there it is. I don't think I damaged this. We'll know for sure, but it's one of those things that you just have to hold your mouth right and it will finally come out. So, okay. So only one other thing I need to do is I need to get the place out to store this thing. So we'll get that done. We'll come back. We'll take a good look at this last main bearing throw. We'll wipe it off, make sure we didn't damage it, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, so here we are. I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of this, or if it's the greatest idea or not, but I found it's really easy to store crankshafts by just laying the flywheel down flat on the floor and sticking the crankshaft back in them. It's not going to go anywhere like that. You see, I've got the other one out of the 34 donor tractor stood up the same way over there. So what we'll do now is we'll get a little bit of brake clean and we'll take a look at this shaft and we'll make sure that we didn't do anything to it. I'm going to go get a light so we can look at that a little better in a rack. The other light I was using is over getting its battery charged, so I would say that this side is very similar to the other side. It looks like right here and I know it's going to be hard to see with the flashlight, but I feel that right there looks like a rust, maybe a rust pit. I don't know. It's possible that that is where it hit the crankcase. In fact, yeah, I'm believing it is. But it just so happens that that is right where the oil groove is in the bearing. So I believe that will polish out. I don't see anything really wrong with it. Like I said on the other one and the rest of this crankshaft, we're not going to know until we get the micrometers on it, but at least now we've got it out to where we can do that. So, okay. Well, there you go. For the first time since I've owned it, The crankcase is empty. Still filthy, but it's empty, all except for the filter canister. So, all right. Well, with that, next time we're going to be starting on the transmission. We'll start the disassembly of that, starting with the shifter. We'll go ahead and get the rest of these other outside pieces off, the fender brackets, the steering box. We'll go ahead and pull the PTO unit, get that all off of here, and get this case gutted so we can really get it cleaned up good. I am not going to send this to the sandblaster because as you well know, on tractors like this, the most important thing on this thing is the serial number plate, and I don't want anything to happen to it. So that will be the next video. We'll get everything off and we'll start tearing the transmission down, see what we have there. And with that, I guess that's a wrap from Papa B's Old Time Repair and Restoration. I sure appreciate y'all watching, appreciate you subscribing, appreciate any comments that you would have. If you've got a better way to take a crankshaft out like this by yourself, I'd love to hear it. So with that, we're going to call that a wrap. And again, happy 2025 to all of you, and we'll catch you next time.